Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Kathy Brandon, your happiness chick, and we are here for another edition of Ready for Happiness Live. We have an incredible lady on the show today. Thank you to you guys who have returned to see another episode, and welcome to you guys who have just joined us for the first time. The Ready for Happiness Live show is a show that's been on air about 2 years, and we are part of Happiness TV Network. And basically what our job here today is to introduce you to real people who have created a unique way of being happy in this world. And they've done that so well for themselves that they have a burning desire to help you and others create a unique way of being happy in this world as well. And so today I want to welcome Wilma Marler. Wilma is an author, and she is also someone who actually truly inspired me. I've known her for almost my whole life. And so welcome, Wilma. How are you today?
I am fine, Kathy, and thank you so much, and thank you to your viewers for allowing me this time. It's really great. It's a great opportunity.
Well, we're excited to have you on the show. I mean, you're the perfect guest. I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if you hadn't influenced my life. So you're an extremely powerful person, and I feel very honored to really be a way of you letting the world know everything I've known for years. And so I just feel really honored. This is a true blessing for me. So thank you for allowing me to do this. Now let's jump right in. Let's talk about Wilma the person, right? Where are you from? Tell us about your life. Let us get to know Wilma the lady.
Wilma the lady was born and raised in Houston, Texas. I came to Louisiana after graduating high school. I always tell people I'm here in Louisiana by virtue of a bad marriage. And out of everything bad, something good comes. So here I am now. I won't say how many years later, but I'm still in Louisiana, and I have a lovely, wonderful life here. So it's something bad came into something happy and good, and that's what life does for us.
Right? Totally understand. Totally understand.
I decided that I would go for my bachelor's degree just because I wanted to do something with my life after my brother passed away. And I thought, well, he was 35 and we're only promised 70, so half of it's already gone and I've wasted it. But it's been a journey, good journey.
Okay, so you went back to school late in life. You already had kids. Let's talk about that a little bit, right? Like, obviously I know your family. So let's dig that out a little bit, right? Tell us about your kids. Tell us about being a mom. Tell us about being a mom who went back to school in midlife.
Well, actually, you do know about this because you were part of my family.
Exactly.
And your half-sister. And it was really funny because when they weren't in school, now I would get up at 5, wash clothes, hang them on the line, put breakfast on the table, then haul myself to school. But the unique thing was the smaller children, my girls were 10 and your half-sister was 9. They actually would sit in the back of the classroom with me, and it was an interesting talk coming home because they'd go, that guy over there that said something, he sounded crazy, Mama. And I'd go, yeah, he did, but it's all part of learning, and I think it instilled a desire to learn because I included them in my learning, even my studying. I mean, I cook with my books beside me studying, so they learned that it was important to develop themselves, and it's just an opportunity. I knew I had to get an education.
Now tell us, okay, so you pursued this education, you got out of that. How did you decide how you wanted to contribute, right? You knew you wanted to get an education, and for somebody like you who has so many talents, sometimes it's hard to choose what. Yeah.
Well, I did study sociology because I think behavior is just so interesting. And then after I had my cancer, I decided I'd get a master's degree just to prove, strange, just to prove that I'm still alive because we need that. And so sociology was a different thing for people because women were either teachers or social workers. And I didn't want to be a social worker because at that time, all social workers took kids away from their family. I didn't want that label. Family's important. So it was through the pain of actually a professor. I have to say this. A professor asked us to write journals in our English lit class. And I did. And I told about, and you're probably going to remember this well, about the man who tried to kill me. I journaled about that. The man in the store, if you remember.
I do.
He,
Wow. I'd forgotten about that. Wow. Yeah.
that's chapter 3. But what you do is you think about that, and that was shaping for me because there was a point that that man's life could have been in my hand. And I thought, wow. And but my professor, he was the first one that I learned how important this trust is and dignity is for each of us as we journey through life, because he said it would be kept private, but then when he gave me back my journal, he said, I showed this to 3 professors and they all think you need to write. And I was so angry.
All right.
It was like, how dare you do this? And that's when I became aware of my anger and how much it impacted my life. And so then when I was diagnosed with cancer, I really got angry. And my doctor, he said, Wilma, anger is like cancer. It takes over. And so for you to beat your cancer, you got to do something about the anger and the stress. And you can't control any of that if you don't find your happiness, your joy, your peace, and proceed on. So yeah, it was huge that just a phrase from my professor of "you should write" stayed with me, and that became my goal. I determined in 1988 I would write a book. I didn't. It's changed. It's morphed into much more, but that was before my cancer, before I lost my sister, before I made all these journeys. So it wasn't time to write till I'd made the journeys and learned to find happiness on the other side of every journey. That was key for me.
Now tell us a little bit about that, right? Because you had cancer and you saw how angry you were, and you got angrier because you had cancer. And you know what occurred for you, right? Like, how did you really make that switch? How did you really find that place of forgiveness and peace and your walk with God? Because that's what I hear, when we're angry, we're kind of mad at God. I was for a while. I mean, well, you saw. But, right. So, how did you make that transition? What was that like for you?
And because you know me, you know that if I got angry at God, I really felt bad. So
right. You got the guilt too and the shame,
oh,
like, oh my God, yeah, I get it.
if you feel guilt and shame, it's easier to go to anger. And
Yeah.
so you have to understand, within a month of my diagnosis, my sister was diagnosed. And
I didn't know.
we did 2 different journeys. And mine was in the realm of, I had this wonderful church, wonderful set of friends here in Louisiana who supported me spiritually, emotionally, didn't judge me, while my sister, her husband kicked her out. She had to return to my parents' home to do her journey because he didn't want an unwhole woman. And this man that I'm married to, he just blinked and said, well, let's get on with it, because we weren't married. And I actually tried to break up the engagement because I thought, I'm a walking time bomb. It could come back. And he just let me know in his way, and that's in the book too, that it wasn't my external body that he fell in love with. It was who I am. And so I told him, I said, well, that's good because there's going to be less of me now. But
Right.
as my sister lost her battle, I watched how her life, everyone abandoned her, which is why I had to take care of her, because it was hard for her adult children to see this. And then I had to shield my daughters from it, because if mommy and aunt
Right.
have cancer, and cancer kills, because I told them early on, she's not going to win. We know that. but we didn't tell my parents, and that's a whole story in itself, is hiding it from my parents. But I, I had to find that balance that said, I know your aunt is dying, but you need to look at me because I'm promising you the future's still going to be okay. But for me to make that promise, I had to be happy. And the last thing a person is able to do is say, thank you, God, for this. I mean, I look in the mirror and I go, oh, yeah, God, I'm celebrating this body. I don't do that.
Right.
But I do say,
Yes,
He
right.
brought me through it for a reason. And the reason is other people need to know how to find that happiness, to let go of the anger, to let go of the shame, to let go of any guilt we have associated with anything, and go, hey, it's all right. It's cool. And that applies to us in our family, in our work life, in our spiritual life. I mean, I still journal, and not many people do that, but I still journal. I journal very heavily because whatever I feel, I need to figure out why I'm feeling it because no one else made me feel it. I chose to feel whatever I'm feeling. And to get rid of all that baggage, you have to say, it's okay to feel that. I'm going to change it. I'm responsible for what I feel, and I'm going to be happy. You have to be positive to beat anything that comes into your life. And the only way you can be positive is through changing your attitude and not letting someone take that precious gift of life and emotions away from you. Leave that box tied up, leave the bow on it, and say, it's mine. This is my gift. I'm using it. Thank you, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I approach it.
Now, it's a lot of that. Now, let's talk about your book a little bit. So, do you find that a lot of this information is going to be in your book, or these stories of, how you had to deal with your sister and how you had to navigate this relationship with your parents? Is all that in the book?
Every bit of it's in the book.
Right.
I will tell you here in chapter 4 that, not by name, I do,
Right.
but the point being is the way I structured my book is I told my story, what I was feeling when I was in that situation, because you feel every situation differently than I do.
Right.
At the end of each chapter, I give a list of books. So, like the Be Happy Attitudes. I mean, this is
Right.
the book I mentioned in it. This book, how to respond when you feel mistreated. Well, if you've never felt mistreated, you're in a boat all by yourself.
Let me tell you, that's a blessed existence right there, because everybody feels mistreated at one point or
Everybody
another.
does.
Right? I mean,
At the end of the chapter, I list just resources that got me to that point. And
right.
people that previewed my book, one of them said, I said, don't tell me which chapter helped you. I don't want to know. I just want to know that it did what I set out to do, which was help other people. And she said, well, I got to go buy 10 books. So go back and look at your book and see which chapter that's in.
Mhm.
Okay. But I do. I don't say it's my way. It's the way I've learned. And you can only learn and customize your journey to happiness by delving into what speaks to you. Um, Everything speaks to you. I remember Deepak Chopra said, everybody's an artist, and you know well that I can't draw a line with a ruler.
Mhm.
And so, well, I'm not an artist. And if you stop and pause and look at a leaf, you stop and just look at a river, you're an artist because you're admiring it.
Mhm.
And so life is that way. We have this canvas, and I had a choice to make of being angry that cancer changed, being angry that life didn't work the way, the Southern Baptist way that I was raised in, but that life happens and you adjust and you find the, you say thank you. You have to say thank you. It is not easy, but you have to say thank you. I have my twins because I finally told God, thank you for the fire. Turned out the fire was the one time my body worked. So it's like, yeah, okay, I'm real happy I lost everything I own. God, yeah, thank you. But I did finally say thank
It's funny. I find that people ask me a lot, what's the formula of happiness? What's this? I'm like, okay, first of all, my formula is not your formula. I'd love that to be true, right? There's just one cookie cutter formula for this whole universe of happiness.
Oh, right.
God made us unique. And so, there's an element, like you can work the formula to the degree, and then you're going to come into that unique piece. And so you're going to have to formulate that with God. I talk about God as a bestie, right? I tell people, that's the minister's daughter's special action plan from God, right? That's what I'm on, is the special action plan where, right, you have to be accountable. Even when you don't want to be accountable, it kind of sneaks up on you like a little thief in the night. It makes you stand in that. And do you find that as you stand in the accountability of the choices you made, and you stand in the freedom that God gives us in the realm of the free will to choose how we're responding to all these things around us? Like, that's what I'm hearing you say, is that your journey from anger to joy started in the choices that you made to respond and react and forgive.
Everything, and I did read, I do reference it almost in every chapter, Tim LaHaye's book, Anger is a Choice, because we do choose. We do choose. We are more comfortable with anger than to say, I blew it. But it does come down to being accountable. I do believe our word has to be impeccable. Our word is who we are. And this is the package you get. I'm who I am. I'm painfully blunt. I had one of my best friends, and if they're true friends, they'll tell you that, is that I have to tell you, you intimidate people. That's your problem. And I said, I don't know how long I'm going to be on this earth now, so I have to be about it. But I've learned slowly that I can laugh, I can relax, as long as I'm good to my word, that I'm accountable to me for my emotions, and I check the words I use, because I learned that my words can be such a lethal weapon to another person's heart, to another person's soul. And I'm not going to rob anyone else of happiness. That's not my goal. So I say, okay, I can't answer you right now. Give me 10 minutes. But people who know me, they'll say, you mean 48 hours? I said, yeah, I'll be in 48 hours, because don't take me that long to get through this. But when you tell people you're going to get back to them and you're going to set a time frame to do it, you're true to your word, you're authentic, and yet you're telling them without saying it, I'm going to think about what you said. Whether you do or not doesn't matter. But it does matter to you that you're respecting the other person, because the only thing we take out in this life is our dignity. I fought for my sister's dignity, I fight for mine. And so to be happy, to be authentic, and to be okay with being an emotional creature. And I tell people I do not cry. I have emotional incontinence, and that makes it okay to cry, because as I say in my book, if I cry, I'm afraid my world will crumble. Mm-hmm. So I have emotional incontinence, but it leads me to a point of being okay, to be happy. It's okay. I can burn the toast. You can go somewhere else and have breakfast. I don't care. It's who I am.
Yeah. I understand that too. We get to a point where, enough patterns have happened, enough things have happened where, we become the common denominator. And it's not that other people don't have responsibility in our equation, but when we start creating, we put ourselves in different scenario after different scenario, and we end up with the same result. At some point you have to look at that, and you have to be accountable, and you have to really take responsibility for what you're creating, what you're rippling out. We have a statement in my family. We call it word vomit, and we're not allowed to word vomit with each other. I have twins as well, and we have a word vomit issue in my family. I know you find that hard to believe.
Sure.
Yeah, right. Ooh, word vomit. And so, my guys are pretty philosophical, right? And so Mason was talking to somebody else in the family. Thank God it wasn't me. He was having this conversation with somebody else in the family, and he was like, he said, I think I'd just rather you spank me. Because the words that you use hurt me in my feelings. And it takes me a few days to get over those. So if you don't mind, I'll just take a spanking. And
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Kids, yeah, right? And
sure.
yeah, so it wasn't a manipulation. It wasn't this. It wasn't any of that. It was more of, wow, let's go ahead and clock these words. Let's go ahead and do a little tune-up here when we're having this conversation. And I work with a child psychologist as my client, and he talks a lot about parents who have a very difficult time, because you get mad at your kids. I get mad at my kids. And so, but standing in that accountability of being responsible for the ripple that we create, and then turning that responsibility, like, it seems like happiness is key when you go straight from accountability, responsibility, you strike through the shame part, like you just missed that, if you'll spin straight into gratitude, right? Like there's a choice. You go, oh, I see what I'm doing. Oops, ooh, my bad, right? And then you get responsible for it. You're like, okay, I want to make amends. And then I find people that sometimes they'll get stuck in that shame place, right? And it gets all nasty and sticky and icky. But if you spin straight into gratitude, which I'm hearing you say, and I think you're writing about in your book, that's what it sounds like is the theme.
Yes.
Then you don't have to miss the shame part, but it doesn't have to send you into the swamp of nasty.
Right. You're entitled. We are all entitled to feel all those emotions. Jesus felt every emotion, and he showed us how to deal with it. And I even talk about blended families, since you know about that.
Ooh.
Jesus from the cross said, Mother, behold your son. And then he said, John, behold your mother. He created a blended family at that moment. And it's not because it's a choice of love and unconditional love, which is why when I do my Be Happy Attitude presentation, I go, there's the last one, number 8 says, I can choose to be happy anyway. And I tell the people in the audience, this is when you just put your hand on your hip and you go, I'm going to be happy. You deal with it. And that's the attitude we have to get. We have to emotionally say, it's okay for me to feel what I need to feel, but I also need to move on and work through it, not devastate the world in the process, which is difficult for those of us who have mouths. And
right, if you have lips, this is a problem.
that's why I have to give myself 48 hours. But it's true, because we're mothers or we're women, we want to nurture everybody, and then that part of us that's human comes out. So we have to be ready to forgive ourselves and say, I'm going to be happy at the end of this because I want the people around me to be okay with being around me. Was I happy that my brother died? No. Was I happy that my sister didn't win her battle? Not at all. But at the same time, I can say, I learned from her, she learned from me.
Yeah.
And she found peace by calling me and saying, you got to go buy this wine. And if you know me, that would have been a taboo for me a long time ago.
Oh, right. Like, who are you?
And so I had to go buy the wine, and she was a nurse, and she said, okay, pour your wine. And I just poured a little sip in the glass. She goes, no, 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 no. I heard that was not a glass of wine, a whole glass. And so
Awesome.
we learned to laugh our way through that pain, through what we knew was coming, but we could still laugh. And we could have joy in the fact that we had that 3 years to have a relationship that was so unique and so different. And I think everyone has to do that.
I think so too. I think it's you get to the end of the day where it's a choice. And you get to the end of the day where you can go into that gratitude place and you don't have to sit in the, I call it the it sucks place. And, you can spin right into that gratitude. I find that that's real power when you go straight from accountability, responsibility to gratitude. It really speeds up the healing process. Now, talk to us a little bit about your book and talk to us a little bit about how we can access you, because I want people to understand how to access you. I know the book isn't published yet, but we will let people know that exact date when we have it. But talk to us about that journey, right?
Well, it was a promise I made to myself, and such a stupid thing. When I met Joe, one of the questions he asked me was, "What are you going to do with your life?" And I'm going, "Well, I plan to write a book, get a master's degree, get a PhD. That'll never happen, and just be. I want happiness." And what he said to me was, "Okay, that sounds good. At least you have a plan." So our wedding song, because he came back from war and married me, and because I had done the cancer journey and made it through it, was Bette Midler's song "Wind Beneath My Wings." And my scripture became Isaiah 40:31, which is the eagle mounting up on eagle's wings and running and not grow weary. And I said that is so much about what cancer, what problems, what things we face. That's exactly what it is. We can't do it in our energy. But if we find a happiness, a place of gratitude, we have the ability to soar. So I chose asking what, no more whys, because when we ask why, we're going to get the same answer. Remember the answer you got as a child. Why, Mommy? Why, Dad? Why? We're going to get the same answer because I said so, because that's the way it is. But if we ask what, which is why I chose the title, Asking What, No More Whys, is we want to know the answer. And so at the end of each situation, event, I say, what am I to get out of this? My cancer journey was a question of what am I supposed to do with this? And so the book had to be that way. And the subtitle is Soaring on Eagle's Wings to Defeat Labels, Anger, and Cancer. Because I couldn't do it on my own. Because I was angry. And I couldn't do it on my own because I was tired. And we moved to that point where we say, that's when I started my little journal where we can, the practice was to write 10 things you're grateful for. Well, I wasn't at a place I was grateful for very much. And so when I started doing this, I'd say, well, I'm grateful I didn't get hurt today. Well, I'm grateful I had air to breathe today. But then as it grew, it started being, oh, my girls called me today. Oh, Joe surprised me and had coffee made when I came down the driveway from work. You start looking at those very things that give you that moment of happiness. Everything, cancer makes you aware of every little thing in life. And that's okay with me. I like having that awareness and double checking myself. Really do. And so I do have a blog at www.wilmamarler.wordpress.com that I've just started. And we'd be glad for everyone to join me on that because I'm trying to blog. I originally said I was going to blog once a week, but I've already blogged 3 times. But Westbow Press is the religious writing arm of Zondervan and Thomas Nelson, which is on the back of most of your Bibles. That's who publishes Bibles. And so I felt because this was my Christian journey, my Christian growth, that I had to do it through a Christian publisher.
And I understand that. I remember growing up, and it was always Christian-based. And, I understand the framework, I understand the rule book, and I understand the structure around it, and I understand the belief. I'm a Christian, too, so that makes perfect sense to me, that you would be published through a Christian publisher. Now, do you find that you find it easier to work? Well, you don't know yet, right? Because this is your first book, so I'm going to introduce you to some publishers just so that you get a little feel. Because a lot of times I like to work with Christians. It's not a requirement by any stretch of the imagination, but I do find that with some partnerships with Christians, there are elements of the relationship that are very easy because we have that same spiritual baseline of how we operate. And so I do understand that, and I do recommend that for anybody who's watching the show. If you have the opportunity to partner in any capacity with people who share your same values, that share your same spiritual framework, that's the way to go. I'm not saying everybody who says, I'm a Christian, or everybody who says I'm a this is really the flavor for you. But I do recommend that for anybody. It's very important for you to have a team where your values are aligned. Now I'm so excited about this book, Wilma. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we don't know yet when it's going to come out, correct?
Correct. They do say that once the printers approve the format, that's all that was left. And I did check the other day, and they now have the cover of my book on their page. So I'm going, okay, the printer may have approved it. Then the ebook will come out first,
Good.
and at a full price of $3.99. So that's cool.
Oh, that's
But
perfect. Okay.
right, yeah. And so I'm going, yeah, that's the. They kept saying, "Do you want to raise the price?" And I'm going, no. When I was diagnosed with cancer, it's just like the Ten Commandments. You and I both know there's no way that commandment down there that says "Thou shalt not kill" applies to us. We're not going to get up and be a murderer.
Right. Right.
I have been so guilty of slaying people with my tongue. So it's like, yeah, that's a commandment that's hard to keep.
Yeah.
So that it's knowing that, and knowing that I got trapped in all those things that I thought people were supposed to be, that writing this book gave me the chance to say material things, the unmade bed. I love that story. It's in the book also. I could probably say, how many of y'all made your bed this morning? And everybody go, me. So my challenge was to not make the bed, because in your mind, if you make the bed every day, in case you're in an accident, someone has to go to your house, they'll know how good you are. That's not it. I'm good because of who I am, not because of an inanimate object. And so I felt like when I just did an internet search and saw this and went, Christian writer, well, that would be me, because that's what my life is. But I prayed to God, let me live long enough for one person, to make a difference in one person's life. And God answered. I so limit God. I said, okay, God, just let me have one person. And God came back to me and said, my dear, it's one person at a time. And every year, I give this book to certain people when I hear they're diagnosed with breast cancer, and I leave my phone number in it. And every year, someone will call me and say, I heard about you. Tell me how I'm going to make it through this. And that's not one person. And as long as I know there's one person, it's just like my book, to have the two people, one that's known me all my life and someone that's just known me for 8 years, read this book. It was like the minute they read it, they called me, oh, you just don't know what this did for me. And I went, there's my one person. Well, I got 2 this year, and I wasn't expecting that. That's a bonus, but God's not that limited. I am. So that's why I did it. That's why I felt the need. Cancer's so prevalent. Anger is so prevalent. My master's study was on violence. And we have so much anger in the world that you have to find a way to be on the other side before it destroys you. Mm-hmm. And so it's twofold purpose. We have to be emotional and on our emotions. We don't take our emotions to work, which is probably, as well as I know you, that's probably real difficult. It's difficult for me. I can't just take my emotions and stuff them in a shoebox and put them on a shelf and say, be back to you later. They're with me. So now I have to check constantly. Am I in control? Am I being the best that I can be? Am I giving my best? And this book was my best. It was my promise a long time ago to do my best. And I felt like at some point other people needed to know there is another side.
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay, we have run out of time. So I want to thank you so much for being on the show. Everybody, I want you guys to go to Wilma's website. I will post it on www.readyforhappiness.com, and I'll also post it, if you're not connected to me on Facebook, please do, www.facebook.com/happinesschick. You can also reach out to Wilma. Wilma, what you may want to do is take that book cover, and you may want to create a Facebook fan page for your book so that we can connect to your Facebook fan page, and then that's a central location for you to publish updates on what's going on with the book and where you can be seen and where you're going to be speaking. And reach out to me. I can help you do that.
We'll do got to.
Good, good. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Ready for Happiness Live. Thank you so much, Wilma, for being on the show today. I really appreciate you being
Thank
here.
you for having me, Kathy.
Well, all right, everybody, you know what happens next. This is Kathy Brandon, your happiness chick. Let's go make some happy, y'all. Bye-bye.